Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from PharmAla Biotech. This is a biotech company focused on the research, development, and manufacturing of MDXX class molecules, including MDMA. Please note you can submit questions in the question box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Nicholas Kadish, founding CEO and president, Shane Morris, Chief Operations Officer, and Harpreet Kaur, Vice President of Research of PharmAla Biotech, which trades on the OTC markets under the symbol PMBHF and on the CSE under the symbol MDMA. Welcome, Nicholas, Shane, and Harpreet.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Nick Kadish, founding CEO of PharmAla Biotech. PharmAla is an MDMA company. We're the first publicly traded company to manufacture GMP MDMA, that is MDMA that is appropriate for human use in clinical trials and for clinical treatment. And we're a researcher and developer of MDXX compounds, which means analogs of MDMA, again, for use in medical indications. PharmAla was founded in very late 2020, I think right around Boxing Day for those who celebrate. And our focus on MDMA is based on our deep regulatory background. So MDMA has been designated a breakthrough therapy by the Food and Drug Administration, as has psilocybin. But MDMA is very far along in the regulatory pathway. Not only do we anticipate that MDMA will be allowed as a medical treatment by the Food and Drug Administration at some point in 2024, but also there are green shoots of regulatory change happening all over the world. In just 1 week from today, the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Agency of Australia, is going to be making a change to the regulatory standing of both MDMA and psilocybin in Australia. It will be allowed for clinical use outside of clinical trials under what is called the Authorized Prescriber Scheme. And so Australia will rapidly become the first and most likely the biggest jurisdiction for the utilization of these molecules anywhere in the world. And at PharmAla, we've been pretty busy. As this July 1st deadline is coming up, we've moved quickly to establish market dominance in Australia as the first potential marketplace for the MDMA that we make. On May 1st, 2023, PharmAla launched Cortexa, a 50-50 joint venture with the largest medical cannabis company in Australia, Vitura Health. This joint venture will not only distribute, but also manufacture MDMA and psilocybin using PharmAla's intellectual property in order to serve the Australian market, not just this year, but for many, many years to come. We see a very bright future there. Cortexa will receive a license to all of our IP for its work in Australia, and it is entirely self-funded by Vitura. PharmAla is not putting any cash into the entity, but we are very confident, is well capitalized to seize the opportunity that these regulatory changes present. And this, in a nutshell, is the heart of PharmAla, seizing regulatory opportunity through deep knowledge of the markets where we operate, and making sure that we utilize that first mover advantage in order to execute on our business plans. I'm just now going to kick things over to Shane Morris, our COO, to talk about our business lines.
Thank you very much, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here. This slide will outline basically what we as an organization are doing to develop product and move it into the commercialization streams that are available to us. The first area of activity that we've been advancing is API supply. We have been the first publicly traded company to make active pharmaceutical ingredient, API, for MDMA. And we have also psilocybin API available. We've basically developed a whole quality system in Canada for the production of MDMA, and we have a quality system for production of synthetic psilocybin as well that we are commercialization is ongoing. This has allowed us, first of all, on an API supply chain to sell into clinical trials, but we've also developed from that API drug product. So we have the first MDMA GMP produced capsules currently in stock and exporting to clinical trials and to Australia as we go in the development of MDMA products. We also, as Dr. Kaur will outline shortly, work on novel chemical entities, these NCEs. We're working on products in our pipeline that will improve safety for MDMA, our MDXX molecules. This will include fewer adverse events and enables new indications to target as well. We currently have a very efficient regulatory plan. We've been in conversation with regulators in the UK and the FDA, and that pipeline is moving quickly along from a novel molecule perspective. We're also examining novel delivery mechanisms for drug delivery. We have patent opportunities and research around that, and we're certainly looking to combine our IP in both the API, the drug product, and delivery product, the delivery mechanisms to actually provide us with an integrated vertical IP stack. So to that end, we have in recent times, we've been able to process, as I said, on the API chain, the actual development of API into new drug products, such as our capsules. And we're able to tech transfer those into other facilities and other contractors, for example, into Australia or anywhere else we need to be able to move to take opportunities that arise from regulatory changes as they happen. Preclinical IP, we're working through work on that front where we have 2 process patents filed in Q1 2022, with composition of matters PCT also published in February of this year. And we're working with researchers, which Dr. Kaur will outline in the next few slides, around developing data to support our new chemical entities approach. Clinical development, we have, as I said, preclinical research completed. We've had conversations with pre-IND US FDA in November 2022 and also in the UK subsequent to that. And we also anticipate a clinical trial launch in late 2022 of the novel entities that we're working on. So the indications is going to be very important for MDMA and our novel molecules. Obviously, where we're working right now on the generic MDMA and the capsules we produce is really focusing on the regulatory opportunities for treatment-resistant PTSD. And as the slide indicates, that's in North America alone, that's 8 million population. But looking at other indications where MDMA or MDMXX molecules and the novel molecules we're working on, we're looking at eating disorders, alcohol addiction, and couples therapy, which have large opportunities in North America.
Thank you, Shane. Turning back to the Australian commercial market for a moment, the business model for PharmAla is relatively simple. We manufacture GMP MDMA today, at which I believe we are the best in the world, and I think our achievements over the past 6 months bear that out. We sell those into 2 large markets. The first is clinical trial practitioners, which is an approximately, I believe in 2022, about a $5 million market, probably quite a bit larger this year as MDMA moves forward to completion of its regulatory approval pathway. The second market, of course, being commercial markets as they open, Australia being the very first one anywhere in the world. We take that money that we derive, we are revenue generating, and we drive that back into research of the novel molecules, which Dr. Kaur will discuss later on. Australia is going to be one of our first test cases for how well we can execute on the ground. But I believe that we have the team, and certainly with Vitura's help, the distribution network necessary in order to execute at scale, rapidly, and incredibly effectively. On the clinical trial side, Last year was our first full year of operation. We manufactured our first batch of GMP MDMA in August of last year, and in 6 months, we generated $1 million in sales. We anticipate $2 million today. This is just the clinical trial sales. This does not include any work in the Australian commercial market because, frankly, as the first legal market anywhere in the world, very, very difficult as present to gauge the size of that market. But we do believe it will be substantial, potentially even competing in size with the clinical trial marketplace. Over 2024, we anticipate that sales of MDMA into clinical trials will expand rapidly, approaching $10 million Canadian. And as you can see, we've also provided a breakout of where we believe the clinical trials will occur. And with that, I'll kick it over to Dr. Harpreet Kaur to talk about our novel chemical entities business.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here, everybody, and I really look forward to walking you through what we've been doing. Over the last 2 years, our team at PharmAla has been focused on identifying novel analogs of MDMA that have an improved safety profile. We are doing this by leveraging the partnership with the University of Windsor's computational drug discovery team and following it up with proof of concept and in vivo studies in animals through our partnership with Professor William Fatagrossi at the University of Arkansas for Medical Science. Our pipeline of drugs includes the ALA series, the ABA series, the PharmAla 1 series, and we continuously work on developing new novel chemical entities. The ALA series is composed of MDMA-like molecules, which demonstrate improved safety pharmacology in BTBR autism mouse models. ALA-002 is our lead molecule, and in the following slides, I will present some of our supporting data. ABA series is composed of an analog of MDMA, which in some jurisdictions worldwide is considered a non-controlled substance. The preclinical investigation phase is showing promising results regarding its safety pharmacology. PharmAla 1 is a net new chemical entity identified through our proprietary computational work. The synthesis and manufacturing of this substance has been patented, and the early preclinical investigations indicate that it is potent in terms of efficacy relative to MDMA, with significantly improved safety pharmacology. The computational work that we do is patented, and we are working on developing new drugs through the in silico drug discovery process. ALA-002. ALA-002 is an important molecule for us. It's the furthest along in our studies. We have built on the data from the phase 2 study done by MAPS for MDMA in social anxiety for autistic adults. Social anxiety for autistic adults is a significant unmet need in the US and worldwide. In the US, it is estimated 7.1% of adults have social anxiety. The past year prevalence of social anxiety among adults was higher for females than for males. And an estimated 12% of the adults experience social anxiety at some time in their lives. Social anxiety in autistic adults is an even more significant unmet need because people with autism have a very poor quality of life if they're suffering from social anxiety. A recent study out of Netherlands has shown that most autistic adults with social anxiety, unfortunately, are opting for physician-assisted suicide. To be able to address this through our molecule is something that we're really looking forward to. ALA-002 has shown in both the general population and autistic models that it has a much better cardiac response. All the clinical trial data around racemic MDMA indicates that patients who consume MDMA have a rise in blood pressure and a rise in body temperature. Addressing this was an important task for PharmAla. ALA-002 in C57 mice, which represent the general population, and in BTBR mice have shown to have a substantially reduced cardiac response relative to racemic MDMA. Racemic MDMA is an amphetamine analog. It does have some amount of abuse potential associated with it. It was therefore also important for us to show that and evaluate that ALA-002 abuse potential for ALA-002 is less than MDMA or not. The data in I'm sorry. The data in this slide shows that the abuse liability potential for ALA-002 is substantially lower than MDMA and almost comparable to saline in both the C57 and the BTBR mice. I've spoken about the BTBR mice, and I think that's important to show you what our data in efficacy looks like. BTBR mice are a very unique mice model. BTBR mouse have social deficits in them wherein they do not like to interact with other mice. It is upon administration of the drug that you can induce some of the social preference in them. Racemic MDMA definitely in BTBR mouse shows an improvement relative to saline. But ALA-002 at the same dose shows an even enhanced improvement relative to racemic MDMA. What you're seeing on the left is the total number of entries documented during this test. The total number of entries are an indirect estimation of how much the mice are overstimulated. Relative to racemic MDMA, ALA-002 does not result in overstimulation of mice. This is, of course, already substantiated by our controlled place preference test, where we've shown that the abuse potential is lower. It is this data set, along with all of the other work that we have been doing, that has given us a successful pre-IND meeting with the FDA and MHRA. And we really look forward to bringing these molecules into the clinic and into human studies. Nick, I'll hand off to you at this point.
Thank you very much, Harpreet. Well, look, I'll close just by saying that over the past 6 to 9 months, PharmAla has achieved a great number of goals, including a number of global firsts. In addition to our work in the Australian market, we were recently granted the first approval by Health Canada to utilize our GMP MDMA in the treatment of patients through the Special Access Program. It's a first for Canada, a use of MDMA for the treatment of patients outside of a clinical trial. Just 2 weeks ago, we were granted approval by the FDA to utilize our GMP Lineo MDMA in clinical trials within the United States. We're seeing a significant amount of interest from clinical researchers about the utilization of our molecule as a result of that. And of course, in literally just a week's time, we have the opening of the Australian market, which we, of course, are incredibly excited about. We are also, it's somewhat below the waterline, but we are obviously working incredibly diligently to move forward into our clinical trial work, which we hope to launch by the end of this year. On the capital market side, our stock has appreciated rapidly. We are currently sitting at about a 10x from where we were 9 months ago. So the market has begun to notice the excellent work that the team here has been doing. And I'm happy to say that while we are listed on OTC Pink right now, we have cleared our 211 and are looking forward to being fully listed on OTC QB as soon as possible, working towards that very diligently as well. The PharmAla team is made up of some of the best regulatory experts that we could find in the space. That is our sort of our mission as a company. We're a regulatory first organization, meaning everyone we hire, everyone who works with us and for us, are folks who completely understand the regulatory environment in which we operate. And that includes our scientific advisory board and our board of directors. It's our heartfelt belief that ultimately no company can be successful in a highly regulated space unless they understand the regulations that apply to them. And I would put our regulatory knowledge of our market up against anyone else in this space. I'll just close before we get to the Q&A by saying we did announce a raise recently. It's currently suspended, but I'm happy to talk to investors who would like to directly invest in the company, in addition to, of course, just buying our stock listed on the CSE under MDMA and on OTC markets under PMBHF. And with that, I'll open it up to the Q&A. Thank you very much for your time. Pleasure to meet you all.
Amazing. Our first question here, can you speak to the IP and regulatory hurdles of being a producer of MDMA?
Yeah, of course. Look, there's a number of them. The first thing I would say is it is not as simple to make GMP pharmaceuticals as I think that a lot of people believe it is. The joke I often make when we talk about our clinical trial sales is we don't actually sell drug. We sell 600 pages of regulatory documentation that go along with some drug, which is what regulators anticipate for anyone who's selling into the clinical trial space. I mean, our customers are large research universities, and they require that to get their clinical trial approval. So there are a number of physical hurdles. I mean, first you have to find a facility to make it. You have to develop your processes. You have to do stability testing. All of this takes time, energy, money, and expertise. And then, of course, you need to develop all those regulatory materials. So it is not as simple as flipping a switch. I will just say that. But we are obviously not resting on our laurels just having made GMP MDMA. That is just the first step. And we believe that some of our novel analogs, which are patented, represent a significant improvement on MDMA, which is what we're working towards, always improving.
There aren't any questions as of right now. This is just a last kind of call for any questions. We do have about 9 more minutes, so if anyone has any questions, now's the time.
Not hearing any other questions at present.
Already one just came in. What will be your business model and margins once things are up and running?
Well, the good news on margins is they're good. I mean, as with most pharmaceutical products, I think the old joke is that the first pill costs about $1 million. The second pill costs a quarter of a penny. So I think our financial statements bear out the fact that we have excellent margins on the products that we manufacture. There will be price compression in the marketplace, as with any new product entering the market. At the beginning, it'll be higher, and over time, it'll go down. However, with our distribution network in Australia, and I assume that you are talking about Australia, just because this is the only commercial market of which we have any sort of experience or bearing right now. With our excellent distribution network in Australia and our ability to manufacture on the ground, onshore in Australia, we believe that we can actually increase our margins rather than decreasing them. And that will be very, very important as other players enter the marketplace. We have full anticipation that other folks will be making GMP MDMA at some point in the future. And allowing for that price compression is hugely important for us to have longevity in the markets where we operate.
I think that might be it for questions today.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was also the question of our business model. Look, I think I touched on this at the beginning. Our business model right now is sell generic MDMA and drive the research and development through the revenue that we derive from that generic MDMA. Of course, the model is slightly different for patented analogs, where we are eagerly in discussion with a number of companies about potential out licensing. But in those markets where regulatory changes are either approaching or we believe are approaching, the model is also relatively simple, and Australia is really the proof point of that model. So we're a low-cost producer, meaning that we can rapidly move into a market like Australia, find the right partners, lock them in for the long term. We didn't just work with Vitura as a distributor, which we could have, but those relationships are sometimes fraught. We did a joint venture with them, and frankly, they are paying us a license fee for our IP and a royalty for our IP in the meantime, as we get to manufacturing down in Australia. The benefit of that is we lock in those distributors for the long term. My belief is you pay for distribution one way or another every single time, whether you show it on your financial statements or not. But distributors need to get paid as well, and we want to make sure that we are aligned with all of our partners into the long term. So the business model for new markets is relatively simple as well. We can move in. We were in Australia 3 to 4 weeks after the regulatory changes were announced. We interviewed a number of potential distribution partners, interviewed a number of manufacturing sites. We toured them, audited them. And so in any new market, as it changes, I think PharmAla has proven that we can be the first on the ground, the first to find the right partners, find the best partners, and that will ensure that we will be not just the first mover in those markets, but also major players into the long run.
We have another question here. Will PharmAla be changing OTC ticker to MDMA to match the CSE ticker?
I would love to, yes. Short answer, yes. We're quite fond of the MDMA ticker, and my experience is, surprisingly, not an awful lot of competition for it. So I do believe that ticker is available, and as soon as we're ready, we will make that change. That's all of our questions, I guess.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, everyone. Thank you for joining and following along with us. Look forward to speaking with you all